Hello, welcome to the Wisconsin Council of Churches. Let's talk digital equity and access, part of our justice and community care conversation series. My name is Reverend Brianna Iline, and today I'm going to be walking us through our training kind of in a format that's a little quicker that can help get some of this information out. We originally offered this on Zoom as a discussion format and in person as well. And we wanted to be able to have a recording of this for those who weren't able to make the training but still wanted to learn. We at the Wisconsin Council of Churches have been sitting in a conversation of what it would look like to create churches as centers of justice and community care. This idea that we have these buildings and these groups of people that are placed across our state. In almost every city in our state, there is a church, there is a community, there are people who gather together regularly. And the reality is there are groups that maybe number from 25 up to a couple hundred that gather regularly each week and throughout the week that offer access to people to have conversations, to do education. But many of these buildings also have people who walk in during the week. Many people know that churches are a space that when they are hungry or they are struggling, that they can walk in and try to get connected to bigger resources and other things. And so we recognize that churches can be a hub, churches can be a network. And so what does it look like to equip our churches to offer resources, to know that, hey, you're struggling, let's help connect you to food, let's help connect you to housing. And so this conversation is about helping people connect to internet. We recognize that many churches are doing digital ministry, that digital ministry and live streaming services and kind of providing services through the internet is part of what we do for our members these days. But the reality is digital ministry is broader than just live streaming a service. It's also about making sure that people have digital access. And so this webinar, this conversation is about that, of helping churches care for their communities and ensure that people have access to the internet, something that we need every day, like so many need for health, for school, for making appointments, for even doing your taxes. Internet is a necessity. And so can churches care for their community in this way and expand access to the internet? So a little bit about digital access in Wisconsin. Digital access was named as a top priority for Wisconsin, and there have been all kinds of projects and funding both at the federal and state level to help people access the internet and improve access to the internet. This started before the pandemic, but then during the pandemic, we realized what a need this was. Right now, 17.5% of households do not have an internet subscription or broadband of any kind. 22.1% of households don't have access to a laptop or desktop. But even in that, people might have access to the internet, but they don't have it at a speed that works. 42.7% of Wisconsin does not have access to internet at a broadband speed. And so there are huge inequities in our communities. There are huge issues around making sure people have access. And the reality is it's not just as simple as plugging in. Sometimes there are huge infrastructure issues that need to be addressed. And sometimes it's much more of an individual issue of affordability or some other ways that we will talk about today. So we're going to talk about some of the issues and we're going to talk about how the church can respond. A little bit about who is doing this work with us. We are working with the Public Service Commission of Wisconsin. This is an agency that is helping to do outreach across the state on a variety of levels. And they host programs, they host tools like an internet discount finder. They have some helplines. So this is kind of a statewide agency that we are partnering with to do this work. And I've heard a lot from them and learned a lot from them of just the particular barriers people in our state face. What does it mean when you live on a farm and you are far away from any other person? And like, how do you get internet access there? What does it mean when you are surrounded by cranberry bogs or granite or these particular things that are, or these things that are particular to the state of Wisconsin? And so the Public Service Commission is one of the organizations that is working on addressing these issues on a variety of levels. We are particularly working, the Public Service Commission has given some funding to the United Way of Wisconsin, and the United Way kind of works throughout the state through a variety of nonprofits and are hosting a digital equity outreach program. And we partnered with them to do some work, and we are continuing to partner with them in this work. And so they are a very close partner. And so sometimes you might see stuff from us, the Wisconsin Council of Churches, you might see stuff from the United Way, but we are collaboratively working together to try to get some of this information out. And you'll, as we go on, hear about our partnership with the United Way. One of the things we did together at the Wisconsin Council of Churches is last August, we hosted a digital equity listening tour. And in partnership with the United Way, we hosted 16 in-person and 2 online conversations. These were mostly hosted by churches. A lot of what we did was in Northwest Wisconsin and a few other spaces. Really just sitting in community and asking and saying, what does it look like to access internet in your city? What does it look like? What issues are you coming up with? What are the struggles? And we listened to a lot of the barriers. And then because our particular interest as the church is often digital ministry, we also took that opportunity to ask about digital ministry. What does that look like in your church? And how are these things connected of digital equity and digital ministry? How are they balancing? So some of the things that we heard kind of were around 3 different themes: a theme of access, a theme of adoption, and a theme of affordability. Because some people might have access, but they're not able to adopt, and they don't have the skill set to access the internet. Or maybe someone has the skills and there's the access of the physical line, but they can't afford it. Or maybe they can afford it, but there's access issues because there isn't strong internet available in their community. And so these are kind of the 3 areas that need to be addressed. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we as the church can address these 3 areas. First is access. What are ways that your congregation could open up access to people in your community, especially if you are in a church that is surrounded by rural areas, because that is often the spaces that people struggle with access. They might want to have internet at home, but there just isn't fiber laid yet, or maybe the only thing they could have is satellite, which is really, really expensive. And so access isn't possible for them because of the affordability issues. Are there things your congregation could do? A few examples is there is a church in my neighborhood that is offering a co-working space. They have fast Wi-Fi. Their building is wired for internet. And so 2 days a week, the building is open from 11 to 4, I think, and people can come and use the internet for co-working. They can come do projects. They could come play games. It also offers some community space for people maybe they do have access at home, but they're lonely and they want to work with others. Could you open up your fellowship hall? Create some community. Another area we've been brainstorming about is we live in an age where there is more and more telehealth happening. Either it's healthcare, it's mental health care, and people need to be able to access appointments. Could you create a private space in your church? Maybe it's the nursery, maybe it's an office space that is comfortable, that is welcoming, that is private, that people could use to access telehealth. I envision it could be and some of this would be some coordination. It'd be promoting that you have this space, creating a sign-up system, maybe partnering with some community health workers or some social workers to say, do you have clients who need access and we've got this space? And there are other ways I invite you to think about how could you increase access in your community? And then there's the issue of adoption. There are so many people who want to be on the internet but struggle. They don't know how to get signed up for the internet. They have a cell phone, but they don't know how to use it. They have a tablet. They struggle and they just don't know what to do. And this is something that can be hard and complicated because often it's a one-on-one kind of troubleshooting situation that needs to happen. People need a conversation with another person. So could you create a space to do that? Could part of your digital ministry be, hey, we offer live streaming on Sundays. We've been doing this for a while, but sometimes people's tech changes. Maybe the third Sunday of the month is a tech Sunday, and we're going to talk to you. We're going to have a special fellowship hour. Bring your tablet and let's talk through getting you on the church's live stream, or talk through getting you on Facebook, or talk through getting you on whatever thing people need to do. This is a great space if you have a youth group or a young adult group or people who are interested in kind of adept at technology. Create some space for them to do some service. Could they be trained to help assist maybe older adults who are struggling, kind of do that one-on-one mentorship of the younger person mentoring the older person? It is a great way to build cross-generational ministry, cross-generational relationships. And it helps. I think it'd be great for youth too. I did this as a high schooler, um, and helped older adults in my community learn to use the computer. And I learned a lot about compassion and patience and having to just walk people at a speed that was way slower than I was used to, but just going along at their speed. This could be a good opportunity for your youth. Do you have a caring ministries team? Maybe often our caring ministries teams kind of jump in when around bereavement or around when people are really struggling. But I think tech is an area people struggle. Sometimes it might be that physical, like getting on, or how do I set up my internet? How can I or how can I FaceTime with my grandchildren? Helping to build that skill set and offer that skill set. um, it also might just be conversations about tech. I recently sat in a group of church leaders and pastors who lamented the polarization and the division that is happening around technology. And they needed a group of people to talk through, how do I do Facebook well? They had the adoption, but they were actually they were like, we don't want to use that because it's scary. And so we had a whole conversation about boundaries and having healthy boundaries online, and doing that work together as a community. And so there is so much space that we as the church could step in and help assist people. Again, both within our kind of church communities and maybe even opening that up to a wider community to say, second Tuesday night of the month, we're offering a free tech drop-in. Come, we'll have volunteers ready to help you. There's a multitude of ways to offer assistance in adoption. And then the last one is affordability. And that's a little bit of what we really wanted to talk about today. This is some of the work that we are doing with United Way and the Public Service Commission of Wisconsin to help think about internet, because internet can be really expensive. And what does it mean when our bills are all going up and internet is expensive? And I found even in areas outside of bigger cities, it's more expensive than it is in the cities. And so how do we begin to get more people online, because it's a requirement for so much of our life, and make it more affordable when budgets are really tight? And just a little bit of a heads up for people in your community. There was a program that was started during the pandemic called the ACP, or the Accessible Connectivity Program. And the ACP is winding down. The funding has ended. There's a lot of advocacy happening right now trying to get it extended. I believe it was a $20 to $30 a month off of internet that was helping people afford internet. But as of right now, in April 2024, it is ending. And so people's budgets are about to be stretched again. Many people who had this benefit no longer will. And so I think it's something for us to be aware of, that that money that had been helping support a budget, all of a sudden, and maybe buy food for the house, now it's might have to go to internet, and there might be more food insecurity. There's going to be people just having tighter and tighter budgets. So one way to address that is another program that is called Lifeline. This is a program that has been around a lot longer than the ACP. It's not quite as robust, but it offers, again, a benefit that can help people access and afford and just add a little bit of a cushion to a budget that might be tightly stretched. So it is a federal benefit that lowers the cost of phone and internet service. It can range from $7.25 to $18.50 a month. Not a giant amount of money, but when you think about that and a monthly expense that adds up to more than $200 a year, it can. And that, when you're on a tight budget, can be a lot. That can be a big impact. And so there are some providers, depending on the ones that people enroll with, that might offer discounts on phones or that sort of thing as well. And so again, how do we help people just begin to access this thing that we need to live our lives? A little bit about people who qualify. If someone is enrolled in Medicaid, in food share, in SSI, in Section 8, in veterans or survivors pension benefits, they can automatically enroll in this program. And then with a little bit more work, if someone's income is at or below 135% of the federal poverty guidelines, if someone lives on tribal lands, they can qualify for this program. The reality is this is many people in our congregations when you look at all these different programs. And many people are unaware. My grandma qualified for this program. And so I think it's part of it is just getting the word out to say, hey, are you eligible? Or is someone in your family eligible? The reality is that maybe it's not the people in our congregation, but they might have a niece, a nephew, a neighbor who is struggling, who qualifies for one of these programs, who could use that additional cushion in their budget. So a little bit about, I'm going to talk through the enrollment steps just to see it's a very simple process. You need to go online to lifelinesupport.org. Make sure that there's a provider that the person you are accessing internet from is on the list of approved providers. There is kind of regional availability. Not every internet provider is able to be Lifeline is not able to be used with every internet provider. And so that's actually probably the hardest spot of just making sure it's the correct provider. And then you register for Lifeline once you are enrolled in internet through a verified provider. There is a paper way to do this. And so that is also available online, that if you have people in your congregation, so you're like, I know that the internet gets scary, or they don't have access to internet, you could print that off and have it available to hand out to people. And so this is just kind of what it looks like, of making sure that you have all this information, walking people through this stuff. People will create an account, put all their information in. And so here are some questions that might, in conversation, you're talking with someone walks in your door, says they're struggling to pay for food. You could also say, hey, do you have home internet? Can we help you? We maybe don't have food, or here's some resources for food. And also let's get some support for you for internet. Is it affordable in your household? Let's figure out if we can help you access all the things that you are eligible for. One of the things I want to lift up, the United Way of Wisconsin offers a helpline through 211. So if you call 211, this is just a great resource for many things around food, housing, just any questions that you may have that you may not have the answers to. Directing people to 211 is a great way to help begin to access different services. But they also have in particular, access to digital navigators, people who are trained to do this enrollment through Lifeline. And so even if you didn't want to enroll people or walk someone through the process, say, hey, call 211. And then actually on here, Amelia is the digital navigator, and her direct line is listed on this slide as well. And Amelia is a real person. I've talked to her. She's great. She's very nice. She has some extensive experience, and her job is to walk people and get people through this process and get people enrolled. She will walk them through. And then if they maybe need to go find some information, she will follow up a week later or 2 weeks later and just help make sure that they actually do get enrolled. One of the really cool things too is that if you are working with someone who English is not their first language, 211 has access to a translation service. And so Amelia speaks English and Armenian, I think, but like also if someone speaks Spanish, she's got resources to be able to do this process in Spanish or French or Swahili or Hmong or whatever language the person walking through the door may have. A little bit more just about 211 as a reminder, because it is such a valuable resource. And I like, even when I was serving a local church, I think I didn't realize how robust it was. Um, but it is a source for anyone in your community who is struggling, can help navigate community resources because it is messy and it is complicated, and knowing what different sources look like in a community can be hard. And they try to track that and be able to connect people to where they need to go. So it might be internet, but it also might be housing, food, elder care, disaster response. Who knows what is happening? 211 can be a source. And if they don't know, they often can say, hey, let's check. We will search and figure out and get back to you. So just again, the digital navigators, as I talked about, there are particular communities, the Greater Chippewa Valley United Way and the Greater Milwaukee and Waukesha County United Ways also have particular digital navigators to those regions. So there's all these people who are here and ready to help people get enrolled and kind of access internet. They also are trying to track to say, oh, hey, you're in Hudson and they're actually, we know the school district or the library or whoever is offering classes. Did you know about this? So they're trying to do beyond just the affordability, but also here's ways to access, here's some adoption resources, those sorts of things. So we want to talk about churches increasing affordability. So what would it look like to have an event after a Sunday to just do a little bit of a commercial to say, hey, we've got someone with their laptop computer who is ready to enroll people in Lifeline if they are eligible, and having some information. We've got a bulletin insert that is available on our website that you can download and be able to put that in your bulletin and get people aware to say, oh, hey, look, I have a veterans benefit. I qualify for this. Oh, you know what? I'm on SSI. I qualify for this. And right after Sunday, you could have someone there who's trained, who's kind of looked through the process and help walk people through this enrollment form. What would it look like to have flyers, again, that we'll have available on our website that you are just ready? I was at a church the other day and someone walked in asking about food, and they were struggling with food insecurity, to say, hey, here's some food. And also, do you have internet? Here's a flyer. Make sure you know about this program. Have you enrolled? Could you put information in your newsletter? There are lots of places that we as congregations can communicate. And so be creative about what this looks like to get the word out in your community. And then as we're doing this, if you have feedback, let us know. Are there things that are working, things that aren't working? We do have a form that if you let us know and kind of are one of the people who's been trained in this, we would love to hear feedback about or like how many people are getting enrolled. What are the things that worked really well, and what are the barriers that you are experiencing? There is a team of people who are excited about this, who are knowledgeable about this. I'm the contact at the Wisconsin Council of Churches, but there are also people at United Way of Wisconsin, kind of statewide, and then in Milwaukee and in the Chippewa Valley, that are here to help and excited about getting people connected to the internet. There's also state and federal programs, again, trying to get people just to get online because it is such a necessary thing in our world. So I want to say thank you so much. This is a really important aspect of digital ministry, and I appreciate all that you do. Thank you.